All right. Good morning, everyone. Let's start doing something reasonable. So that's the title for my talk today. Kiss my app, Angular app. Kiss. It's like design, software design principles. All right. Just to make sure. So for the next 45 minutes, you're gonna hear some opinions. Let me just warn you, it's not gonna be popular opinions, because I'm working with Angular since 2010. So I've got like, I don't know, 200 systems in my resume, and I got my own opinions. And the purpose of this session is to rethink about best practices, or bad practices, or practices like in general. That's my current agenda these days. I don't believe there. Can you see it? It's bright enough? I mean, I think that there's too much light. Yeah, maybe. Excuse me. Is there any chance to switch the light off in this area? So that's my current agenda. There are no bad practices. If you're working with Angular for the past years, we all know there are like tons of articles, YouTube videos, like every Angular developer out there got its own opinions. You should do this and you should do that, and this is bad and this is good, and I don't believe in this anymore. And what I want to show you today is why, all right? So that's the warning, that's the official warning. We're gonna rethink Angular a little bit. We're gonna talk about the KISS principles, but it's not going to be like a deep dive into the theoretical part of the KISS principles. KISS is keep it simple, and then the last S, it depends. It's keep it simple, stupid, keep it simple and sophisticated, and whatever. I'm going to try to keep it practical. My name is Nir. I work as a guild manager at a company called Next Insurance. I've been working with Angular, like I told you, since 2010, which means like AngularJS and everything that came after it. Working with React in parallel since 2015. And basically that's what I do for the past 15 years. Front-end, client-side, yeah, have no social life whatsoever. I do have some free time, so in my free time I like to dance, play the violin from time to time. Also like to paint. I am the Mona Lisa. All right, let's get, just wake up, guys. Wake up. Where's the beer? What's the problem with the Angular framework? Who likes to answer? We all like Angular. What's the problem with Angular? You can do it in tons of different ways. I mean, the problem with Angular, I think that that's the same as its weakness. It's complicated. Maybe, you know, as an Angular developer, it's okay to say, hey, it's a huge framework. It's got a lot of moving parts. In order to be a successful Angular developer, first of all, you need to get into reactive programming, which is hard. And it's not a new thing. It's not like an Angular came up with reactive programming. It's been there since, I don't know, at least I think 20 years. Started with Java, .NET, reactive programming is hard. And then Zone.js. And then Angular itself, the template language. I mean, so you've got like a lot of layers, a lot of different parts of knowledge that you need to put together in order to be a successful Angular developer. And I mean, it's a good thing, but on the other hand, is there anyone here who ever felt that he built something that can be simpler? Come on, raise your hand. Yeah, I mean, so you build a dashboard, you build something, and you said, yeah, I'm gonna reconfigure the Angular JSON. I'm gonna build like an entire Angular module system. I'm gonna obviously NGRX and RxJS, deep dive, and it might be simpler than we think. All right, let's move forward. This is a quote from Ruby on Rails. Are you familiar with it? I've got it printed, true story. I've got it printed on my near my desk at the office, because we should remember this. None of us is a beautiful, a unique snowflake. I mean, all of us, basically, we build the same system again and again and again. Again, I told you, that's my perspective after like 15 years working at the front end. I like it, but we basically, most of us, building the same system. The UI might look different, but basically we're doing the same thing. And if you remember this, it leads me to another quote that I like to use. Familiar with the movie? Hopefully. No? Is there anyone here who never seen Fight Club? You can get out, yeah. All right. I mean, the default Angular project, if you just got started building your next dashboard, and you just do, you know, the ng-new whatever project, right from the beginning, we get like a super architecture and bunch of stuff. Even before we started to talk about Annex and all the other tools and micro frontend, that, you know, it's like, it's never ending. So let's start talking about some practical stuff. And I would like to start with some piece of history. If you never seen this famous talk on YouTube, please check it out. Write it down. This is Pete Hunt with his like super popular talk, Rethinking Best Practices. I think that this is the talk where he introduced React to the front-end ecosystem. Now, it's not about React, but on this talk, he was it was like he showed us like a different perspective on the popular MVC design pattern that was like kind of ruled the front-end world because we adopted this architecture from the backend, and AngularJS became very popular because of it and other frameworks. So he talked about MVC, MVVM, and MVP. And the first thing that I would like you to take from this session is that I believe that we shouldn't afraid to talk about MVC and even implement MVC or MVVM even with modern Angular. I know it's not super popular. I know that these days, if you started a new project, you almost immediately think about feature modules and component architecture, whatever it is, and NGRX or some other. And I can tell you that in Next Insurance, one of our features, one of the modules in one of our core systems, recently rewrite it in an MVC style way, which means that in Angular, everything is a class, everything is an object. So what we did, we said, all right, Angular, it's a UI framework. Not everything should be Angular. So we just build a bunch of classes, plain TypeScript objects that handle the data, that build the view model, the data structure that I actually want to render, and kept Angular in a very specific place, just the rendering layer. So MVC and MVVM, it's not necessarily bad because it's not popular these days, and I highly encourage you to check it out. And if you like later on, after this talk, during the break, you can more than welcome to approach me, and I can show you some code that I can't show you right here, and we can discuss it further. All right? So ng modules, if you just started with Angular, we all know. How many types of modules are you familiar with? How many types of modules, Angular modules? Wake up, guys. Types. Feature modules, shell modules, core modules, common modules, whatever module. I had like tons of sessions. Now, I know that, I don't know if you heard, but like the current buzzword is optional modules in Angular, like standalone components, which I think it's just, you know, it's just a nice trick, because basically we took everything that we put inside of an Angular module and just move it into the component decorator. So basically Angular modules are still there. We just moved the code to another piece of it. And I would like you to think about what's going to happen. Talking about keep things simple. If you're going to start your next app, your next system, and use only one Angular module, right from the beginning, only one. A huge app module, everything is registered, right? What's going to happen? Let me tell you this, nothing going to happen. It's easier to add lazy loading, which introduce different kind of issues. It's much easier to break your app into modules. And every Angular developer that I meet these days, that's like kind of like a default practice. Well, I'm going to build an Angular app, whatever it is. It might be a very simple app. It might be a huge system. What's the first thing that we're going to do? Routing, lazy loading of modules, think about feature models, what's going to be in the common module, what's going to be in the shared module, what's the relationship between the modules. And I'm not afraid to admit that, you know, eventually, let's admit it all together, all right? Let's stand up and say we all know that eventually everything gonna be like one huge module because everything is imported, everything else, and we end up with huge bundle size. And that's what happened. The first like new, I don't know, bad practice, call it whatever you like, start your next Angular app with one app module and start rolling and see what happens. Let's talk about Zone.js. Let me go ahead and open VS Code. Can you see it? All right, let me open VS Code and then close it and open a professional IDE. WebZone. Familiar with it? It's like VS Code, but you know, real IDE. Let's take you wanna go? Yeah, you go. All right. Let's talk about Zone.js. Now, I want to show you something. If I want to log something from the console every time change detection happens, which lifecycle method should I implement? Who knows? Answer the questions correctly, and you're gonna win a Windows laptop. You're gonna win the opportunity to spill water on a Windows laptop. Who like to do it? Yeah. It's not mine. It's belong to the conference. The do check, guys. The do check. Do check gonna run every time change detection runs. So let's write down app component here. App component, I don't know, cd, whatever. Let's run it. It's already running. And here we go. You see it right here. That's change detection. Cool, makes sense. No surprises here. What's gonna happen if we're gonna create a button and let's just bind something to click. Let's create a method called nope. You can guess what's how it's gonna look like. We're not gonna do anything. So there is no data binding. I'm not changing anything. I just created a button and implement like a dummy method. Change detection gonna run or not? Yes? Who think it's not gonna run? No one. Cool. So change detection, all right? It's not that sophisticated, and this is one of the source, I mean, for most of the Angular runtime bugs ever. Change detection is gonna react to any event. My current best practice for not just new Angular developers, but when I teach Angular developers, I would like to say, don't use Zone.js at all. I mean, start a new project, and just like modules, if you go to the main TS file, just like modules, it's very easy to add modules. It's very, very hard to simplify a complex Angular application. Check ng-zone, nope, and switch it off. Start your next project without Zone.js. What's gonna happen? Every time you wanna run change detection, and now you decide when you wanna run it, you're gonna have to inject the change detector ref, all right? And then you can decide if you want to run it. Let's call it detect changes. Now, it might look like, well, I like it when it's going like automatically, but one of the reasons that React is so popular is literally because of this. There are no automatic change detection. So Zone.js is not going to trigger change detection on any event whatsoever. In React, we use currently something called a hook or a method called setState, and then I'm as a developer can decide when I would like this component to recalculate. Not a big deal. The problem is what happens if you already have a big, a medium, an Angular app that depend on it. So it's not a very good advice. Go ahead and switch it off and see what happens. I mean, I encourage you to try and do it, all right? But it might not be a good idea because I'm going to break everything. So the other feature is use zone flags. Zone flags, which is not very known feature for some reason, it's an API that enables you to fine-tune Zone.js. So if you just add a file called zoneflags.ts, you can start like fine-tuning. For example, disable timers, because Zone.js gonna trigger change detection. For example, if I'm gonna set an interval, I wanna ping to my remote server every, I don't know, 5 seconds. I wanna see what's going on. I wanna pull data, maybe. I don't want change detection to trigger on every cycle in my interval. So I can turn it off. And basically you can turn off. Look, all right? I don't know if you can see it. Let's do zone. All right, disable timers, disable canvas, disable whatever. Actually, I don't know if you can see it, but you're going to have to trust me on this one. I'm going to share the code with you. You can fine-tune Zone.js to react exactly to the events that you think or want to automatically run change detection. Because every time you use the HTTP module, client module, every time you use even you know, just fetch, something async happened, change detection gonna trigger for no reason. So that's gonna be my next advice. I mean, if you start a new project, start without Zone.js and just control your code, control the flow, and it's gonna save you a lot of time later on down the road. But if you've already got an app up and running, go ahead, create this zone flags TS as a default and start fine-tuning the events that you think should trigger automatic change detection. Any questions? Is there anyone here who's seeing this for the first time, just out of curiosity? Cool. So I'm happy that I was able to show you something new. But honestly, this is a power feature. Use it, all right? So yeah, less Zone.js, and I've got these slides, but we don't really care about the slides. And some this is actually a React code. If you never seen it before, this is a component in React. And in React, I mean, only if you call a specific method, you're going to trigger change detection. I mean, and that's it, and nothing happened. I mean, and you can build complex apps with it. Cool. Let's talk about modular Angular. Now, this is a very loaded topic. Promises in Angular. Now, obviously, it's not popular because Angular uses RxJS. So we're going to use RxJS everywhere. But I believe, I don't know if any of you are going to admit it, but a lot of times we are like executing some kind of an async call to API. And we think to ourselves, do I really need RxJS? It's just a one-time execution of async operation, whatever. I'm loading configuration, translation files. I'm just fetching some data. Do I really need RxJS? Now, I know it's not a big deal. Yeah, RxJS, once you get it, once you get the basics anyway, it's pretty much straightforward. But let me show you an example, a quick example. So here I built like a very, very, very tiny demo code before, I used these folder structures that represent some kind of an MVC, MVVM style architecture. And right here, make it bigger. I've got a class that uses the fetch API directly, and you can use Axios if you like, and it's a promise, and it's an async method, and I use the async await, which I think it's much easier, at least for me, to handle, much more readable code, and nothing gonna break, because you know why? Most of the Angular API, core API, support promises. It's just easy to forget it. What's going to support promises? Let's see. Let's start with, I believe that if I come here, first of all, the async pipe support promises. So you're not going to break anything. You're not going to break change detection. Use async await, all good. When you use async await or promises, most of the time it's much easier. You don't need to handle subscription. You don't need this callback composition of RxJS because you just don't need it. I mean, it's a different method. It's pulling data from the server. We're not pushing data down the pipe. But it's important to know that most of Angular core API, and I've got here on the slide that I'm going to share with you, all right? The async validator support promises. Pipes support promises. Guards, route guards support promises. So technically, if you don't want to use RxJS for any reason, and the most important reason will be readability, make things easier, simpler, start with promises. The other benefits would be Angular is modular. And sometimes it's easy to forget it. I mean, we said, well, the nice thing about Angular that we got a bunch of modules, everything is working together. So I've got like the HTTP client module. But it's optional. You can build an Angular app without importing the HTTP client module. Why? Because you're building a simple dashboard. Why? Because you're implementing a simple MVC pattern. Why? Because it works. And it's simple. Cool? All right. So most of Angular core API support promises. And there's a discussion about, but wait, what if I want to use the HTTP client module, which return an observable, and I want to convert it to promise? So how many of you heard that RxJS deprecated the toPromise method? Well, that's just, you know, half of the, I don't have any internet here. So they did deprecate the toPromise and introduced 2 new methods to do it correctly. So right now I'm not connected to the internet, but I encourage each one of you, check out the RxJS documents. And you will find a section, type down RxJS convert to promise. And the RxJS documentation, they don't say don't convert to promise. This is a bad thing. They say the method to promise is wrong. So they change it. And now you've got 2 different methods. The first value that came from the observable or the last value. More correct way to do it. So even RxJS, in a way, give us the opportunity to convert an observable to a promise. Why? Because of the reason that I mentioned before. All right? So we talked about less modules. Start your next app with less Angular modules, and just, you know, it's easy to add. We talked about less Zone.js. Start with no Zone.js whatsoever. Or just, you know, add it with ZoneFlex, just the methods that you need. And we talked about less RxJS. It depends what you build. Use your logic. Sometimes RxJS leads to less readable, less understandable code with no reason. There are a lot of reasons to use RxJS. It depends on the system. All right? Any questions regarding promises? All right. And this is the favorite part. How many of you heard like the most like the bad practice is to manipulate the DOM directly in Angular? Now, I want to show you something, but it's going to be a very important moment in your Angular development life, all right? You can literally split your life to two parts. Before what I'm going to seriously, before what I'm going to show you right now and after it, all right? And everything that I'm going to say, it's going to stay right here between us. This session is not recorded and broadcasted to no one, all right? So it's a safe zone. Safe Zone.js now, all right? No. All right. So never manipulate the DOM directly. This is like the big no-no of Angular. Let's break it. Let's break it apart. I want to show you something. The thing is that I can't talk and type. I mean, it's against human nature. Running. The thing is that, all right? We need to remember one thing. In Angular, every component represented as a class. Angular is stateful. When we build an UI element with Angular, we instantiate an object that holds the data and the state, and it referencing a DOM element that created in the browser. Now, if I'll manipulate the DOM element, I might break this reference. So if I remove a DOM element without destroying the component, the class, the object, I'm going to end up with zombies, with objects still alive, change injection still running in the background, and things will become, you're going to get in some very interesting situations. But what if I'm not going to remove DOM elements, I'm just going to move them around? I want to show you something. I built this directive. All right? Let's go over the code together and then see it at work. I created this directive. I called it portable. I don't know why. Exported as portal. We'll see why it's important. And let's see what's going on here. I'm using window directly. I'm using like vanilla JavaScript DOM API, get element by ID, and then find the parent node, and then open another window, and then take the content of the element that hosts the directive and move it to another window. So like an extreme direct DOM manipulation. All right? And when I want to hide it, I'm just going to take the element that I just transformed from one window to a completely different window and bring it back and close the window. Any questions regarding this piece of code? Cool. Like the most extreme DOM manipulation that I can think of is to go to the browser, locate an element, remove it from a DOM tree in one tab, and then create a different window with a different tree of DOM elements and put it there. I mean, if this best practice of never change the DOM directly in Angular because you're going to break the universe is true, we're going to see some interesting things over here. So let's see how we can test it. So right here, I built this. First of all, here's the directive. If you're not familiar with the export as enable me to get a reference to the directive, to the instance. So now I can work with it inside my template. So this is my directive. It's exported as portal. So I can take a reference to it and just call method on this instance. Cool? Inside of it, I've got a counter, simple counter. And we can increase and decrease the numbers. So this component, I mean, obviously, that should work. Let's see. I broke something. Let's fix it. Internet is not connected. Well, I don't think I care about... yeah, but it's because the fetch, but that's not an issue. I'm just going to take all of this. Where am I using this fetch? Is that like users? Let's see, routes, blah, 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 blah. User component. Let's do the playground component and remove this altogether. I think it should work. All right, cool. So here's the counter, and it works. And let's see, let's do like an inspect element to make sure that we know exactly what's going on here. Here's the component, a playground, here's the DOM. And now I'm going to do something crazy. I'm going to do open. And I took it and remove it from the DOM. That's a completely new window. You can see on the right side, all right, it's disappeared. But guess what? Everything still works. Angular still works. Change detection still works. And maybe I'll return it to its place and keep manipulate it and continue on a different window and bring it back again. Now I got it. Now, that's a short session, all right? Just 45 minutes. We've got like, I don't know, a couple of minutes. What you're seeing right now, it's a very, very important concept in Angular. In Angular, there are two different trees. The logical tree of Angular and the renderer tree that represent the DOM. What you're seeing right now, just to give you some motivation to explore, is that I manipulated the renderer tree. I moved DOM elements all around, but I didn't break the logical tree of Angular. So the app is still intact. The context is still in place. So I'm able, this code is work as expected because I'm inside the same component, I'm just moving stuff around. And it was very important to me to show you this extreme example because in some point in your Angular development career, maybe you already been there, in order to build complex UI, eventually we're gonna need to manipulate the DOM directly. Eventually. It's either we're gonna do it or use some third party that they're doing it for us. And it's okay to do it once you understand the concept. Cool? Caught you by surprise? Change your life completely? All right. I just want to check. All right, guys. So, first of all, thank you. I hope this session like opened your mind a little bit. Rethinking about Angular. Keep explore, right? Always question. Don't listen to anyone that tells you this is a bad practice. Don't do this, don't do this. Don't use promises. Don't manipulate the DOM, all right? Play with Angular. Break it apart. You might be surprised. Use as much Angular as you need, all right? Don't use all the features in the world. If you have more questions, you can catch me right after the session or during the break. If you like, I encourage you to buy my new book. It's a book about CSS, 50 Shades of Grey in CSS. All the incomes are I'm donate to a PhD, which is an anonymous PHP developer group, fully volunteers. I told you you're gonna laugh at the end. Yeah, take a picture is very important. It's very important, very important. Anyway, thank you very much. You can keep in touch, near.life. I don't have any privacy at all, so you can find my email, my phone number, my local address, and my social security number in this address. Thank you, guys. Have fun. Oh, wait, any questions? No. Yeah, of course. Let me make it larger. I mean, I'm still here, yeah? No one is kicking me out of the stage. Who would like to come on the stage and spill some water on a Windows machine? No one? No, seriously, I see I'm still here and they didn't smash the door yet. Any questions, guys? If you're still here? No? Honestly, just because of the refactoring features of WebStorm, I mean, it's consuming a lot of RAM. It's a monster. You need to optimize it in order to work, probably. But the refactoring features, the code, I forgot the name of it, the code inspection that runs in the background is amazing. And VS Code is a great editor, but it's not there yet. And just like Angular, I don't like to take code editor and start like loading third-party plugins, and then if one of them fails, everything fails. So I'm using WebStorm for years. All right. Yes, please. Oh, first of all, the timers, all the timers. I see no reason of like keep the set interval and set timeout like automatically change detection. And next, and this might surprise you, the async calls, the API calls, because sometimes you do want to execute an API call, get the data back, and then decide if you need to update your component. Now in Angular, it's enough that you just resolve a promise, change detection gonna run, even if there's no data at all. So that's going to be the second thing that I'm going to disable. And from, you know, there on, there is some fine tuning. For example, maybe specific events. You can go like, you can drill down and very fine tune like clicks and overs, like scroll down. Every time you scroll down, there's an event, change detection going to run. I can change detection. That's basically that's the devil. That's like McDonald's. That's, I mean, you don't want to use it too much. Go grab some coffee, guys. I mean, yeah, you are dismissed. Yeah. I mean, if you like to keep talking, I'm fine with it. But feel free if you like to, you know. Yeah. If not, more questions. It's okay. You can go. Don't be shy. All right. Let's go drink something.